What can I say about The Legend of Zelda, a series that started in 1986 for the NES and has expanded to 15 games with a 16th on its way on all 8 of Nintendo's consoles, from the original Nintendo and Game Boy to the Wii and DS. The main character Link is certainly the hero of time, who's battled Ganon and his evil forces for 25 years and in 2 different timelines. No doubt about it, Link is one of the badasses of the video game world, and who would have thought that he would have made his way over to the Sega Genesis in a port of A Link to the Past? Nah, I'm just yanking your chain. This is the Crusader of Centy. Remember in my Bubsy review when I said that the competition will imitate something successful? Not even Link and the Land of Hyrule were an exception to that. Crusader of Centy, or Soleil in the UK, or something in Japanese that I'm not even going to try and pronounce, was developed by Nextech in 1994 and published by Atlus for the North American release and Sega for the UK and Japanese releases. Here's an interesting little fun fact. Sega was the company that distributed this game. After doing a little bit of research, Nextech does not develop their own games. They're an outsourced developer. So in other words, Sega wanted their own Link to the Past game but were too lazy to make it themselves. Once again, the controls are weird. A attacks, B jumps, and C activates animal abilities. But only 3 use this and the rest just move in front of you to block for you. And it's not an effective block either. The graphics are pretty good for the Genesis. The frame rate does slow down sometimes, which is odd as the Genesis shouldn't do that due to the blast processing capabilities of the hardware. The music is abysmal, but the Genesis wasn't known for having pretty graphics or good sound. Because this is an RPG, it's very story-driven, and the story is, well, let's just say that it has a good idea, but they didn't plan it out very well, and it constantly contradicts itself, and there are an abundant amount of plot holes. The beginning of the game tells you that the world was covered in darkness and monsters were all across the world, and that was before humans ever existed. But no one knows if they were naturally there or if they came from somewhere else. A very pointless plot element, as we don't need to know how they got there if they were already there first. And by divulging this little bit of information, you're already hinting that the monsters were not naturally there. So we fast forward to the present. Not all the monsters died. Some of them survived in caves, multiplying, and then came out of hiding. So why is it now that they can live in the light? Did they build up an immunity? I don't think so, as they hid in the dark caves for millions of years. You could say that it was evolution, but because they stayed in their environment, evolution wouldn't do much, as they were already used to that current environment. But I'm digging far too deep into this. Anyway, it's your 14th birthday and it's time for you to go training to fight. But you're not given an explanation as why you have to, other than it's the law of the land. And you're not told who or what you'll be fighting. You receive your deceased father's sword and shield, and the shield does nothing. It's not used for blocking. Hell, it's not even used to be a boogie board. It's just there, just to be there. So after talking to the king who has ears that can pick up XM radio, you get permission to train at the training grounds. You'll need 20 gold coins to learn the sword throw, and you'll need this ability to kill the bosses. You're not really given clues as where to go, as most of the characters are little whiny bitches that only complain about their problems. Unlike the Zelda games, there is no overworld that you have to travel across. You have a map that you can travel to places instantly after you've visited them, which greatly cuts down on the time it takes to get from one place to another. So you can pretty much beat the game in a day, as you're not traveling all the time and places are relatively small and easy to navigate through. After saving an old woman from the big bad wolf, she'll tell you to see the fortune teller, who will in turn tell you that you're part of a prophecy to change the future of the world. A prophecy that is only mentioned this one time and is hardly glanced at all. So now your real quest begins, and for this half of the game, you can only talk to animals, flowers, and monsters. You can't talk to people anymore, which that might actually be a plus, as the people have nothing interesting to say. However, the animals don't have anything interesting to say either, as they only complain about their problems as well, or how they don't trust you because you're a human. You'll travel the land and you'll talk to the animals, and most of them don't trust humans, as all humans ever do is fight. However, you're not given a reason as to why humans are fighting, but you're shunned for being human anyway. But as you defeat bosses and collect animal friends, you'll slowly gain the trust of the NPC animals who live in villages, but they only trust you because you have animal companions with you. Speaking of, you have up to 15 companions. 12 of them stay with you, and 3 are rent-a-pets that only have a one-time use. The other 12 either give you a utility, such as running faster or being able to be used as a stepping stone, or they power up your sword, either imbuing it with magic to make your sword do a specific type of damage, or giving the sword a utility like controlling it or bouncing it off walls to hit switches when you throw it. Most bosses have a weakness to either ice or fire, or in some cases both. There's a few biblical references throughout the game, such as the companion Leviathan and the Tower of Babel, which is being built so the humans can reach heaven. And it's when you get to heaven is when the plot decides to really demonize you. Not your race as humans, but you, the player character. You talk to the angels, but they talk about the violence in general. Eventually you come to an area in heaven where there's a door that you need to get to, but once again you're not given a reason as to why you have to open it or go through it, and you're not even told what's behind the door at all. Once you get to the door, you'll be attacked by a monster known as Maldra. Maldra is defined as a she, and she wants to be the one to open the door. However, she doesn't give a reason as to why she wants to open the door, nor does she even tell you what's behind the door. Once you defeat her, you'll be given a message from God. He says that he was testing humans and tried giving them a closer tie to animals and monsters, and that he thought that history, which was tainted by human fighting, would change, and that you've also tainted heaven by fighting. However, you were fighting in self-defense as Maldra was the one who attacked you first. You're told that you could talk to humans again, and that you should look from other people's points of view, as the words are not important, but the actions. He says that the crusade of Centy, which is never mentioned or explained, will come to an end as now the laws of nature do not apply and it's time to change history. When you started the game, you were essentially going clockwise across the map. Now you'll go counterclockwise as you follow the tornadoes. You'll go back in time to get the ruby slippers, which really aren't needed as you're transported back to the present after killing the bosses. Then you'll go to the desert where one of the early human settlements essentially had a Salem witch trial as no one can survive past the 6th floor, and accused anyone coming back with a useless plot device as a monster. Then you talk to a guy who says that he's tired of what people are doing there and decides to make a town elsewhere. You pretty much go to different points in time to kill a monster that's purposely causing trouble. You eventually go back to your hometown before you were born to save the king from monsters. But when you talk to the monsters, they say that they're the victim, saying that they were locked up for being different just before they're killed. These four claim that they were innocent, and there's no reason given as to why they were locked up. But as we all know, prisoners will say that they're innocent when they're behind bars. This is a very pivotal point in the story, as this is the entire basis of stating that monsters aren't evil. This part of the story contradicts the actions of the monsters that you fought. This is where you see that the monsters play the race card. However, they're not being persecuted because they're different, they're being persecuted because of their actions. So it makes you wonder what these four monsters did to get locked up in the first place. So now you've come to the realization that the monsters play the race card. They attack without provocation, and when you fight back in self-defense, they immediately pull out the race card upon their defeat, to make you look bad as a human, and that's why the animals are so xenophobic. They see the humans fighting the monsters, which is in self-defense, or to stop the evil that the monsters are committing. So you'd think that the animals would be on the side of the humans, as they're scared shitless of the monsters. The animals go even further to demonize the humans by saying that they lost their ability to talk to animals because they always fight. But unlike animals, humans aren't going to roll over and take it up the ass. They have the means to fight back, and so they do. After doing some research on the game, Crusader Centy took a different approach to storytelling. That monsters are not inherently evil, but are being judged as evil because they're different. But after playing this game, I can tell you that's a total crock of shit. If these monsters were as peaceful as they say that they are, they wouldn't attack you for just showing up. In fact, you'd think that they'd run away. But no, they taunt you, they say that you're foolish, and that all the bad things that have been happening is their doing, and that they're going to kill you. And when they die, they say, "Oh, woe is me, you humans kill us because we're different." Bullshit! You eventually go back in time before humans existed and when the earth was covered in darkness. You talk to Mother Monster, who you killed at a later time period, and you learn that when your world was created, monsters were brought into this world against their will, and that they want to go back to their own world, but they can't as the door to their world is closed. The game says that you finally see the position of the monsters. They just want to go back to their own world. However, that's no excuse as to why they're total dicks in the future. It goes on to say that the thought of monsters being evil is human nature, which is the biggest bullshit excuse to blame humans for fighting. I've gone through this entire game being attacked by monsters without provocation, so don't even try to feed me that load of crap. So after you defeat the 5 senses and defeat what's called the spirit energy, which is keeping the monsters from going back to their world, and you're not even given an explanation as to what the spirit energy is and why it's preventing the monsters from going back to their world, the monsters are sucked through the portal and you're transported to the day before your birthday. And you see that the world has changed. Monsters never interacted with humans, and that there's peace across the land. So going to different points in time was completely pointless, as all you needed to do was go back to that one point in time to send the monsters back to their world. You're soon told by God that he's tested humanity and underestimated their goodness, and that you've changed the future, so it's a stupid Deus Ex Machina, which is total bullshit. It's God's fault that the monsters are there, therefore it's his fault that the monsters are attacking humans, and it's his fault for the humans fighting the monsters who are attacking them. And if he knew that the monsters were the root cause of the fighting and can enable time travel, why doesn't he send the monsters back to their own world instead of blaming people for not accepting the monsters who are attacking them? The story is an insult to your intelligence. It's really pushing the don't judge a book by its cover moral really hard. But once you take a look at the contents of those books, the story doesn't hold together and falls apart. I really think something got lost in the localization of the game. I don't see how you can say that people are the ones who are in the wrong, when not only people, but the animals are afraid of the monsters who are attacking them for no reason. And the monsters who relish in their evil, laugh at and mock you before they attack, should not be going, "Woe is me, you humans are mean," when they're defeated. That's the mentality of a child who's acting like a brat, and when you punish him, you become the bad guy. I can't recommend this game. The gameplay is good, and the animal friends that help you are a good idea, and that's all the praise I can give this game. The music is terrible and grating on the ears, and you play an RPG for the story, and for the Crusader of Centy, it's asinine. It's trying to tell a story that's contradictory to the actions of the NPCs. The prophecy or the Crusade of Centy is never explained to you, but that it's your destiny. Then it says that destiny does not pave the path, and that it's your footsteps that lead you, and therefore saying that there's no such thing as destiny, and that you are the one who are responsible for your own actions. The story doesn't tell who attacked who first. It says that the monsters want to live in peace, but they attack people and animals for no reason other than it's fun. If someone of a different race were to mug you, and there were witnesses and DNA evidence that proved them guilty and their only defense is the race card, they're not going to win. And that's this game, a failed attempt at playing the race card.